I'm going to take a little journey back to my childhood. So why don't you join me?
Hello, it's Frank again. I've been with you all the way. Imagination is fun when it's free to run. Come on, we paint this a brand new day. Simply painting with Frank today.
Welcome everyone once again to Simply Painting. Well, I'm Frank Clarke. We're in Ireland, we're in County Louth, and we're in the village of Greenore. And this is a very special little village to me because right across the road there, my father was born. And right next door is the National School, or was, because now they've turned it into a pub. My aunt was the local music teacher, so there's lots of little things that I know about here. So I thought we'd have a little walk and I'll show you some of the features of Greenore. Well, the first little stop we're going to make is here at the golf club. It's only about 50 yards from my father's old home. And a couple of things to tell you about it. First of all, I started to play golf here when I was this height. And secondly, and far more importantly, a gentleman called Paddy O'Hare was the first and only Irish winner of an American Pro tournament. With that in mind, let's head off and find some more of my childhood memories. Well, we've come to the end of our little tour, so to speak, and this time we've come 100 yards the other side of the house. And behind me is Carlingford Lough and the lighthouse at the head of it. Now, this is why Greenore exists, because you see, it is the deepest seaport on the east coast of Ireland. Now, as a child, I didn't know that, nor did I care indeed. All I cared about was I could come to this beach and I could swim and I could fish. And many is the time I caught so many fish here, I actually couldn't carry them home. Now, we may paint this little scene, but first, let's contemplate it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the little tour. Well, here I am in a pulpit. So with your permission, I'm going to preach to you. Now, I want you to understand this. Everybody can paint. There's no such thing as a person who can't. It's all a matter of a desire to do so. So what I want you to do is go off and find something, even if it's only a pencil, whatever you have. And I'm going to go and find something to paint, and then you and I will do it together. Hello there. Well, look, I've got a little confession to make to you first. I hope you enjoyed Greenore, that very abbreviated visit we had. The problem was, to be honest with you, we lost one of the tapes. And we had the harbour, we had all kinds of lovely things to show you, but I'm going to talk you through it a little later in the show. However, we did not lose what we're going to paint, and it's that lighthouse. So we're not so bad, as they say. So let's start and talk about the materials, and then we get on with that, and then as we go along, I'll tell you a little bit more about Greenore. First of all, we're using 5 colours and the white gouache. I always put the gouache here. We may or may not use it, depending. Anyway, the 5 colours are the watercolour. It's lemon yellow, cobalt blue, light red, raw sienna, and burnt umber. We have 3 brushes. We have the large goat hair. We have the small goat hair, which is 1.5 inch and 3/4 inch, and we have the rigger, which is the little small brush. We have some cloths to control the water on our brush. We have some water, and we have a palette or a tray, and we have a sheet of paper which measures 14 by 10, and this time it's upright, therefore we're painting in portrait. Without further ado, let's get on with it. So the first thing we're going to do is draw the horizon line. And this time it's fairly high up, because we want the horizon, which was the sea in this occasion. We want it well behind the lighthouse. Now, having done that, we've got 2 other little things to do. First is, we've got to draw in the piece of land. Remember when we looked across the lough? We'll show you. It looks like that, you see? And the next thing is the lighthouse itself. Now, the lighthouse itself is about here somewhere. So it comes up like that. It's not quite as straight. Don't get a ruler. Don't start this business now. You don't want that. The lighthouse was built by mortals, and therefore it's not absolutely perfectly upright. Now you want to make sure that's straight. It gets a little thicker towards the bottom because that's the way it's built. And then as we go up, and that's about it. Then on top we have, of course, there's a little thing for there, and then there's the light itself. The light is, and then there's a little top up on top of it again. That's our light. And of course the lighthouse is on some rocks and, oh, it's all kinds of things like that. That's about it. I'm not going to draw any more, but what I've got to do now is protect that lighthouse. Do you know what I mean by that? Because I'm going to paint the sky behind it, and I don't want to go over the lighthouse. So what do? Masking fluid. Now what I do is this, I take my masking fluid and I take an old brush, not a new one. If you don't have an old brush, it'll have to be a new one, and you wet it. Wet it well, dry it off a little bit, and now dip into the masking fluid. This masking fluid, by the way, is a yellowy tint in it. And for goodness sake, don't buy the one that is clear, plain white, or you won't see it. I've put masking fluid on the paper and then I couldn't find it. Now, as I'm painting this, I'm counting up to 20. And once I get to 20, I've got to clean my brush again and then back into the masking fluid. And if you do that, you won't damage the brush. Simple as that. That's all it is. It's to save the brush. I put in a couple of those rocks just in like that. Now, once we get that done, we clean off the brush, put the top back on the masking fluid. This is a latex rubber. And if you spill it, it'll stick to you. And you know, Murphy's Law always states, if anything is going to spill, it'll be that stuff. So just be careful. Now you've got to let it dry. And it takes 4 or 5 minutes. Or, of course, the hairdryer. So let's get at the hairdryer. Now you must give the masking fluid a very, very good drying, or at least if you don't have a hairdryer, leave it for 10, 15 minutes. Because if you paint over that and it's not dry, your brush will stick to it and you'll have a real mess. Anyway, we're grand now, so we get on with the sky. Now we ignore it. That's it now, finished. Let's get in here, swish our brush around. Now there's a little bit of paint on my brush from the last time. Well, I've cleaned it off, it doesn't matter. If that water is not perfectly clean, it does not matter. Now let's start off. Let's get some of the raw sienna. That's our first colour. The same thing as if you're using the water with the masking fluid, it'll turn a little cloudy. Don't worry about it, it's fine. Just use a big enough container. I like to use that flat fella here, or else I have a big bullseye jar here somewhere. And the reason I have a big bullseye jar, I like bullseyes. So what I do is I buy a jar of bullseyes, I eat the bullseyes, and then I use it for my water container. So I get the best of both worlds, don't I? Now look, I'm painting right over the whole thing, look. Right over it, don't stop for anybody. See that? Now I'm going to put in some blue. That's the sky, isn't it? I've put in the raw sienna, which is a kind of a mustardy colour, which will give me a nice creamy look to my sky, I hope. Okay, we ready? Let's get in some nice, look. Boy, oh boy, isn't that lovely. Now you always start from the top and you work down, and I think I've told you over and over again why, because the paint runs down the page and it's so much easier. Now we're going to mix up some other colour here. We take some blue and some of the light red. This will give us a nice winey colour. Actually, blue and light red make a lovely sky colour. And funny thing is, if you look at the sky, you'll be amazed that it's not what you thought it was. Skies are not just always just blue skies and everything else. There's actually, in fact, there's usually the 3 primary colours in it, red, blue and yellow. And it's nice when you, look at that now. There's our sky. Now I think we need to give a little swish across there, because it's a bit mean looking, isn't it, at the bottom of it? Yeah, that's better, isn't it? See, we left it the way it was, it would look quite, now it's nice and thundery, the sky, isn't it? I think we've done enough of this sky. Now we're fiddling and full stream. We have 2 minutes and then we got to stop. So our 2 minutes is up. Let's give it a dry. Well, we've given that a really, really good dry. Now a couple of little things to show you. First of all, remember we darkened the bottom of the sky there. Why did we do that? Because if we didn't, we wouldn't see our lighthouse. Because, of course, the white of the lighthouse against the white of a sky, you won't see it. When you put a nice colour behind it like that, good dark colour, you get a thing called counterchange. Now, counterchange means in painting that you put the darkest part of your picture beside the lightest part, and you get the biggest contrast. Little trick it is, we artists use, yes. Anyway, there it is. So now we're going to put in some sea, but before we do, just tell you a little bit about, another little point about Greenore. My father, who was born in Greenore, and my grandfather, of course, who lived there as well, they both played golf, as I do, which you probably gathered, and both of them had a handicap of scratch. That's almost the lowest you can have. It means you get no shots, you got to go round in level par. So they were good golfers. They had nothing else to do, sure, it was great. And the other good news, of course, is that's what happened to the tape, by the way. Our cameraman, Will, as I told you, the school became a pub. Clever, wasn't it? Well, I think Will went into thought he was going into the school, really did. He wanted to be educated and then found he was in a pub. That's what happened to the tape. Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. He'll be delighted when he hears me saying that. Very nice lad. Now I'm going to look, this is blue alone, I'm going right across like that. Now I'm going to play a little bit with this because I'll probably want to darken that a bit. Why don't I put the tiniest bit of yellow in? Because sea is inclined to be a greeny blue. So just, I don't like it when it's too blue, he says. Now around the rocks, we of course will have some waves. Now we can do it the other way, but let's do it the lazy man's way. Let's leave out some waves, which is much easier than having to put them in later, by just using the baby goat hair brush and going across like that. Very nice. And so on down we go. Now the waves will get a little bigger as they get nearer to us, won't they? So let's leave a good big wave here. Now look, see that? This is coming right up to the shoreline. You know, I can tell you a story about this shoreline as well. There's fish in Ireland called mackerel. I think we get them most parts of the world. And in the summer, when there were mackerel about, there used to be so many of them that we could actually go down here and you could catch them with your hands. You go in the sea and you stand there and thousands of them come by and you go swish and the mackerel, this is true now. I mean, I know you think I'm kidding you, that's an Irish tale. It is a fact. And you come home with all these mackerel, and my poor Auntie Kitty she didn't like mackerel very much actually. She said, bring those fish back, we don't need them. Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, there it is. That's another tale of Greenore, you see. Kind of a travelogue I'm giving you, yes. Now let's try this. Now my next move is I'm coming down the page, and this is, what I'm doing is putting in the broad outlines as I come along. I put in the sky, I put in the sea, I probably have to go over it a little bit again, but before I do that, let's put in some of the beach. Now the beach is sand with rocks. So we put in beach, 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 and that's raw sienna, nothing else. Now it all begins to dry and begins to make sense. Not easy. Little drying again now, because remember, the old arm, yes, you must dry as you go. I hope you begin to realise now how really simple this whole thing is, and that anybody can do it. You know, perseverance, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. You know, there's a story about Sylvester Stallone, you know, the guy that made all those Rocky films and made millions, so much money he couldn't count it. Great. I played golf with him once. True, yeah, in Ireland. He was in the K Club. It's a lovely golf course over there. Anyway, well, I played golf behind him. Same thing, isn't it? What was I talking? Yeah, Sylvester Stallone. Well, let me tell you about him. Well, he went to over 100 auditions and failed them all before he got anywhere. And people used to laugh at him. You know, say, silly fella, he'll never get into films. That fella will never be any good. And the very same thing happened to the Beatles. Remember the Beatles, the pop group from Liverpool? Yeah. Everybody turned them down. Who got the last laugh? See, so I'm suggesting to you that if you persevere, the very same thing will happen to you. You'll get there, only a lot quicker, I promise you. Not half the pain that he had to go through, or the Beatles. Now, look, I've just gone over this a little bit of greeny colour, see, which is a little mixture of the cobalt blue and the lemon yellow, and then that's all we're going to do. We're not going to overdo this. Now, that's nearly the sea done, isn't it? beginning to look like sea now, isn't it? Now we have a little bit of coastline up here which we've got to put in, and I think we should do that next. But once again, we've got to make sure it's dry. It's dry, dry all the time. Every time you put a coat of paint on, you dry it. Understand that? You do. That's the idea. So anyway, what I was saying there, which kind of all amounts up to saying, look, don't say this if I can't do it. Say, hey, I can do this. If that crazy Irishman can paint in that length of time, so can I. And you'll be right. Now, let's put a little more of the beach in now. Now we're starting to get a little bit of light red in there with the raw sienna, which gives us a kind of a reddy beach colour. That's rather nice, isn't it? Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? I'm going to put some rocks in here in a minute too. Look at that. All begin to make sense, isn't it? Now let's get our rock painting brush. And we need, first of all, to make up some colour. And I think if we take some cobalt blue and some of the raw sienna. Now this is where it helps if you happen to have a colour chart. If you'd made up the colours and you could look at the little chart and say, oh, well, if I mix those two together, I'll get this. See what I mean? It's not really a chore. You don't have to make it all in the one day. Just do it over a period of weeks or months or whatever it is. And it's very easy. Now, how does that look? Let's have a little doodle. Oh, that's a little bit, isn't it? A little bit yucky. So I'm going to put in some more blue and red, making them more winey colours. I think the rocks should deserve to be a nicer colour than that, don't they? Now let's see. Oh, nothing at all. That's great. There we are. That's what we were looking for. Okay, let's go with the rocks. Now once again, remember, make sure it's dry. So quick dry, just on that bit there. That'll do. Let's not overdo it. Don't need to do it this time because it's fairly dry to start with. So there's a rock there. Now, actually, this brush I'm using is a slightly different brush. I said we've only 3, but this is kind of a spare fella kind of lying around the place. It's a number 6 round brush. And it's very handy for rock painting, yeah. It's a little bigger than the other one. See, we can... Now, kind of close your eyes now and again and have a look at these rocks and make sure you don't... No, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. Each one, don't make them roundy. I hate roundy stones, you know these kind of, everything looks nice and round. Don't make them, and don't let them get into a pattern on you. You know what I mean by that? Don't like have one here, one there, one there, one there. Have them all over the place at random. Now we still haven't touched our lighthouse, of course, have we? And there's another one coming down there somewhere. Look at that. Yeah, this is good. A little bit more blue, little check, that's fine. I put a big rock down the bottom here. We'll put some seaweed and stuff in a minute. We'll just get the outline of the rocks first, then we'll kind of refine them down a bit then, won't we? And a couple more there. Oh, where's all that colour? There we go. Now we'll have to pick the left and right hand side of this thing and all that. And now there's our rocks starting to make sense. Now we next have to put in, I'd like to get at that little bit of distant up here. Remember we said this was up towards the mountains of Mourne. That's where it is, across the bay there. See, this separates, actually Carlingford Lough separates the north of Ireland from the south. This is the piece of sea that divides the two. And there was some naughty smugglers during the, yes. In fact, I may have had some relations involved in the very same activity. There was a time in Greenor, to tell you, when the only kind of tea you could buy was in a 56-pound cask, and the same with butter. Nobody sold small amounts of anything, and it all came by boat or went by boat to one side of Carlingford Lough or the other. And there was a pretty fair smuggling business going on indeed, and everybody knew about it. Years ago, it's all finished now, of course. There's none of that. The old smuggling business is gone. It's sad, really, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying that my relations lived on smuggling, but let's say they didn't do too badly out of it. They'd turn in their graves if they heard me saying that, but it's a fact. I remember it as a kid. Yes, I used to go backwards and forwards in the boat an odd time, mysteriously full of chests of tea and things like that, just by way of helping after the war, like when things were rationed in England, you know, you had to. Now, there we are. Now, that's the far side, so you had to go across there. Let's try that. And then we start. The lighthouse is next, isn't it? Now, how do I get that lighthouse into such a condition that I can do something with it? Well, I can take my finger, which is all I have here, or you could use a rubber or a razor as we. It's a rubber or a razor, whatever you want to call it, I don't mind. And there it is, and you just rub out, take it off, look, and you're left with a nice white outline of the lighthouse. Now we've got to decide which side of that lighthouse is dark and which side is light. Because the side that's dark, that's the side we've got to paint on now. And I'm going to make up a kind of a shaded colour here and have a little look at it. Yeah, I can put a little more. Always test on your little piece of paper, because it's too late when you put it on it. Well, it isn't too late, but it's an awful job to get it back off the page again. It's much easier not to do it in the first place, if you follow my drift. Now, I'm coming down the side. I'm going to assume that the light is coming from the far side. So this is the dark side of the lighthouse. Kind of makes it three-dimensional, you'll see now. Now that's the first coat, if you like. We'll have to go more than that, because that's very light, isn't it? So we darken it a bit. And all we do is we add in some blue and some light red. Much the same as the rocks, isn't it? Because, I mean, after all, the lighthouse is made of rocks and cement and everything else. Ah, there we are now. You see, and down the frame away again, look. I've sneaked this number 6 brush in here. Quite a bit in this picture. Now, don't be too bothered if it's not dead straight, the lighthouse. You know, you say, oh, look, it's a bit crooked looking. Well, of course it is. They're all supposed to be. They're crooked lighthouses we built. This is a very famous one, this. This used to guide the ships into Greenor Harbour, which the harbour still works, actually. We had some lovely shots of it, but unfortunately, as I say, they're no more. They've disappeared somewhere, we don't know where. Maybe they're in that schoolhouse, yes. And in fact, it's one of the biggest areas for exporting cattle. That's what we export from there. And, oh, all kinds of things. We export a lot out of Ireland now, you know. Oh, we're a wealthy little country, yes, we do. A lot of computers and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is the light itself up at the top. See it? I'm going to get some really dark colour now, because I want to get the impression of this light. See how easy it is when you cover it? Yes. Now, the light has right that way, and then we have that, and then there's kind of squares on the lighthouse like that. It's where they put the light inside, see? And of course, that'll be kind of dark there. And then we go a couple more swishes down it like that. Sometimes there are little rails around the top of these lighthouses, and there's probably a little antenna or something up the top. Now, I'm going to do a quick drying business now, because I'm going to put some more rock in around it. There's a bit of rock. Now remember, a little bit of darkening on some of these rocks here. It's the same colour again, that's all, just darken it up with it. It just gives the impression, see? Now you've got to put the one side, don't forget that. Now I've got to do a quick dry. Quick dry. Very quick dry, and then get the hook back on the thing here, because we've got to put a little door or a little windowy thing halfway down there, and another one down there. There's 2 of them in the lighthouse, okay? And then some of the rocks. And now we've got to put out some of the old gouache, because we did say we're going to put some gouache out, didn't we? Yes, we did. Now let's into the gouache. Let's get some waves. Look, and this is all. I'm only showing you how this works. Look, see? In the water. And then the gouache goes out there and it creates the waves over the lighthouse, which are all washing up there. Don't be too crazy with it now. Another bit there. And then we've got 2 more things to do. What's that? The bird. Oh, goodness me. We got our bird. And then we got to get our pen and sign the thing, and then we got to put the old mount on. Oh, the time passes so quickly when you're enjoying yourself. Well, once again, I got to say from Frank Clarke to you, that's all for this lesson. So remember, you try this out and have some more fun.
Slow on lot to you, my friends, until we meet again somewhere. Send a card or two, I'll be thinking of you, and I'll be hoping we'll be back real soon. But until then, let me say, my friends, the pleasure was all the way. And if heart's in your mind, I'm not hard to find. Sure, we can do it again one day. Simply painting with Frank today.